Why are we still feeling like we're being bent over in aisle 6? It feels like we are really taking it when it comes to paying for our groceries, even though grocery inflation has slowed significantly. Wages are catching up, and according to Market Watch, dollar for dollar, what we make versus what we spend, it takes fewer hours of work to afford a week's worth of groceries now than it did before the pandemic. That surprised me. It doesn't feel that way. Why not? Why does it still feel like groceries are out of control? Did you have thoughts?
I have top 5 answers on the board.
Go ahead.
Prices are up. We just talked about how prices really aren't up, but absolute prices are still higher.
Yep.
It's just that you've gotten raises the last several years, but prices of milk, eggs, all those grocery staples that you need, prices are still up.
So this is kind of like when we talk about the price of a gallon of gas and we go, well, I remember when it was 99 cents. And you go, yeah, but you were also making, half of what you're making right now.
You just hit on one. Shrinkflation. I might be paying the same or less in some cases, but I'm getting less.
Okay.
So that's a big one. Number 3.
It's like when my Campbell's soup is now in an 11-ounce can instead of a 12-ounce can, or a 9.5-ounce instead of a 10-ounce.
You're
you know what I'm talking about?
9.5. I get like 33.
I think is it V8 that's coming in like an 11-ounce can instead of a 12-ounce can? I can't remember.
Ice a lot, and it went from like a 9-pound to a
7-pound bag.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Same price. Hey, we haven't changed our prices in years.
Cereal, they've done this to people all over the place.
Yeah. You know who else does that a lot? And I notice this? Soda. Soda will come in, it'll come in like a 16-ounce bottle, and then all of a sudden they go, introducing our new 20-ounce bottle. And then it's a 20-ounce, and they go, wow, this is cool. And then they go, and we've got our new shaped bottle, and you can get the new special edition shaped bottle. And then you look and you go, that's only 18 ounces. And then they go, we've got a new 24-ounce bottle, which they then slowly back down to a 20, which then slowly backs down to
Price is going up,
16.
Though.
Yeah,
or
they're really good at playing the game.
Other bills. That other stuff like rent, insurance, those other bills keeps going up too. So since prices at the grocery store aren't cheaper, they're simply back to where they used to be. We lump them in with all the other places where we're getting smacked with higher fees.
Right. We see it when we're at the register, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to blame the 90s too. The entire decade.
All right.
From the 90s on, prices were consistent as wages rose. So we effectively felt like the prices were lower.
Well, you did some research on this, didn't you? That's pretty good.
No, I used my noggin for once.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, when you were yelling at me over there, don't shake your head at me, Merrill. I did. When you were yelling at me about that produce that I buy, I was hammering out some good stuff here.
Okay.
Also, frequency.
Just taking a look at the stories that we had today. Felt familiar, but go ahead.
Where are you going with that?
Go ahead. Frequency.
Frequency. Most bills only show up once a month or every 6 months or even yearly. But how often do you get that grocery bill?
Once a week.
Some people even more than that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some people 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah. So every time you go to the grocery store, you're getting kicked in the pants. Same goes for the gas. Be careful where you stick the nozzle, by the way.
All right. Words to live by there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had some thoughts, too.
I would love your thoughts. Did you do some research like I did?
No.
Did you have some good analogies?
Yes.
Oh,
you ready?
I love a good analogy.
I have all kinds of mixed analogies.
I love mixed analogies.
See if you can keep up with my bad
mixed
analogies.
Let's go.
So part of the reason I think that it still feels like we're taking it, what'd you say, a kick in the pants?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that it still hurts, even though economists are going to say everything's fine now.
It's not.
For me, bad news is like a tire fire. It just smolders.
Yeah.
It never really goes out. Huh? And honestly, this comes down to our basic instincts. We learn from pain. We're very Pavlovian in that regard, right? We learn from pain. That hurts, don't do it again. And economic pain is just like physical pain that we suffer. And so we're on the lookout to avoid that happening again. Don't touch that stove. It's hot. We learned that the hard way. Right? Don't put your finger in that socket.
It'll zap you.
Right. And you'll end up in radio. We learn from that. We teach our kids not to do those things. Think about people who came up during the Depression, but now they don't put their money in the banks because they didn't trust the banks. See? Right. They learned their lesson. Once bitten, twice shy. I'll give you a little anecdote. True story. So, before I got into radio, I was studying to be an EMT. I wanted to be an EMT.
Correct.
So I was doing these clinical rotations at the hospital, and we had this guy come into the ER, and he comes in and he goes, "Somebody's got to help my mom." So we all jump up. Of course, at this time, I think I was 21. I was in good shape, and I looked good in my uniform. So I jump up, and I run with all the nurses, and we go, and this woman is slumped over in the front seat of his van. And we put her on a gurney, and the nurses are trying to do CPR while we're pushing it. It's the closest I got to being in an episode of ER you can possibly imagine. We're doing CPR on this woman while we're pushing her back to the ER. And then they get in there, and what do they always do? You've seen this on TV. What do? They start
chest compressions?
Well, they do chest compression. They start cutting her clothes off.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
right. So they start cutting her clothes off, accessing her veins, trying to start whatever they're going to start, all this kind of stuff.
She eat that produce that I eat?
Stop. So when we get there, they start cutting her clothes off, and so she's down to her knickers, and she's got stacks of money with giant safety pins on the inside of her knickers. Stacks. Stacks.
Probably
I don't know
not
how
like
much.
$1 bills, too, like 20s and hundos.
Yeah. Stacks of it. And now I couldn't tell you, but if I were to guess, I would say probably over $1,000 that she had just safety pinned to the inside of her knickers.
Wow.
She didn't trust the banks. She didn't trust her family either. She didn't want to leave it behind. So she took it with her everywhere she went, but she didn't trust the banks.
Well, bad news. You can't take money with, I guess you can, to the grave, but.
Well, she didn't know she was going to die that day. So here's the thing.
Did she pass away?
She did. So here's the thing on this. In these cases, people, they lack trust, right? Because we went through pain, we lack trust. Because we're suffering at the grocery store, we lack trust. And every time that grocery bill seems high, to your point, because it is higher than it was, that feels like a pain point, right? And so when we see bad news around grocery prices, it still stings. Even after mama kisses that boo-boo and puts some Neosporin on it, the sting is going to take a while to go away. Mixed metaphors are my specialty, by the way. Even if prices come down, the sting is still going to be there. And we don't trust that the prices are going to stay down. So just like those raised in the Depression didn't trust the banks because, look, maybe things are fine now, but at some point the bank is going to collapse. We did see that happen during the Great Recession, right? So we did see some banks collapse. So we go, at some point, and I don't trust the banks. And so we say, I've seen the grocery prices going up. I don't trust that they're going to stay down. Just watch, they're going to go up again. I feel the same thing every time I see gas prices come down. They're close to $3 in some places now. Get ready, they're going to go back up, aren't they?
Yeah.
Does anybody doubt that they're going to go back up? No, we don't trust that they're going to stay down. And so most people have a streak of pessimism in them because it's a basic survival instinct. Learn from the pain. Don't trust the scary dark cave. Don't stand too close to the edge of a cliff. Don't try to pet the giant panda bear, no matter how cute he is. Our pessimism is our brain's way of telling us to be wary. And so our pessimism, when we go to the grocery store, is our brain saying, be careful. Don't fall for this. Even if it feels better now, there still may be pain around the corner.
Economists are saying, too, their question is not when are prices going to continue to come down? At what point will the American public just grin and bear it and accept $4 as the new price of a gallon of milk?
Oh, I think we're getting close.
You think that we won't complain about it?
I'll tell you what can happen.
Or are we going to have back in my day, it was only $1?
We'll always have that, but when it goes up to $4.50 and then comes back down to $4, then we're going to feel like, it could be worse. In the same way that we go, hey, gas is under $3. Sure. But wouldn't it be better if it were under $2, right?
We're not there yet, though. People are in the complaining phase right now. We haven't reached, what are the stages of grief? Acceptance. We haven't reached that one yet.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.